Our next presenter is MeShawn Green, who has devoted nearly 20 years to working in diversity and inclusion. Originally from Tulsa and a proud graduate of Booker T. Washington High School, Ms. Green came to Edmond to attend the University of Central Oklahoma. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in corporate communication and a master's degree in adult education. Upon receiving her bachelor's degree, Ms. Green started her career at UCO. She served as the director of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion for over 13 years. In this role, she contributed to creating an environment that embraced and celebrated diversity and inclusion. Ms. Green then moved to serve the Office of Inclusive Community, where she collaborated with university partners to plan, lead, and implemented institutional initiatives and campus practices to advance inclusion and diversity. Most recently, she accepted a role at CSSIG, where she serves as the Inclusion and Belonging Consultant. Please welcome MeShawn Green.
Good afternoon. I am so thrilled to be here at the University of Central Oklahoma this afternoon. I can't bring myself to say to be back here at UCO because I have been a part of the UCO community in one form or another since I graduated from high school. So even though I left here a few months ago to explore other professional opportunities, UCO is home. And so I'm so excited to be back amongst friends and family. I want to take a moment to thank Jared Jobe for today's invitation. It is so funny. When he brought to the attention of Christy Moore and I this idea of this program late last spring, early summer, I never imagined that I would be on the stage. I did not submit my name. But I am glad for the invitation, and I'm happy to share some of my thoughts on inclusivity. Like I said, I have been a part of the UCO community in one form or another since I graduated from high school. Myself and two of my best friends decided to come to UCO. It was close enough to home, to where we can go home on the weekends and get a hot meal and wash our clothes for free, but far enough away to where we felt like we were going away to college. And to say that we grew and thrived and developed during our time here at UCO would be an understatement. Everything from being challenged in our classes to the lifelong friendships we made in our student organizations and living in the residence halls to trying to duck and dodge Barry Lofton before he put us to work. All these things really contribute to who we are now. But we brought a lot of who we were to the University of Central Oklahoma. And that was especially the case for my best friend, Dee. Oh. This is Dee and I in the residence halls. Dee and I have known Dee since I was 12 years old. And Dee, she is just Dee through and through. She's extremely intelligent. She is very witty, and she has a heart of gold. And she is also fiercely, boldly, and unapologetically committed to bringing to the forefront conversations centered on race. She always has been. For example, I bet that Dr. Roz Miller does not know that during our sophomore year in her fundamentals of speech class, Dee vowed that every one of her presentations would incorporate an aspect of slavery. It didn't matter if she was talking about fashion or eating in the student cafeteria. Somehow she did it seamlessly. And even most recently, she graduated from UCO. She graduated from UCO's nursing program, and she's currently a nurse. She works from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so most recently, she was leaving work, and her colleagues, they were going out to breakfast, and they wanted her to join them. And like I said, everyone loves Dee. And so they were trying to convince her to come, but she was tired, and she wanted to go home. But they had the fact that they knew was going to convince her to go. Dee, they said, we're going to a restaurant that's been open since 1918. And without skipping a beat, she says, why would I go there? My people weren't even allowed there a few years ago. Yep, that's D. She has expectations that we should consider race in most situations. She's dedicated to the topic. She's continuing studying and learning and evolving. And because of these things, you cannot question her commitment. And these are some of the same elements we should consider when thinking about inclusivity within our organizations. We should be clear on setting our expectations. We should be dedicated to learning so we can be inclusion champions in all spaces. And because of these things, there should be no question of our commitment, either externally or internally. Let's first talk about expectations. When I say diversity, equity, inclusion, equality, these are all different terms that are part of the same family of inclusivity. Let's do a little crowd participation, okay? So I'm going to ask a question, and you can shout back to me your answers, and you can just say them simultaneously. Why do we have such an emphasis on inclusivity? Y'all supposed to shout back y'all answers. Creativity. Equality. One more and I'll move on. Innovation. Variety. All these reasons, and we have a focus on inclusivity because there has been a real practice of exclusion. There have been whole communities that have been excluded from the conversation, excluded from the opportunity, excluded from the possibilities, excluded from access. And so we want to have real, authentic, honest, progressive conversations, inclusivity, then we have to root our work in that fact. And so it's impossible for us to have conversations on inclusivity without having conversations on equity and diversity and belonging. And once we make that decision, then we have to decide in our organizations, where are we and where do we want to be? This is a model from the BCW. In this model, the Diversity and Inclusion Maturity Model, and models like this are great conversation starters. Where are we in our organizations? Are we in a space of unawareness when there's no desire for, in the organization or the leadership, to address diversity and inclusion? Are we in a state of being compliant? Will we address it because we need to? And in our leadership, there's no one who really owns D&I. It kind of lives in certain areas of the organization. Are we living in it being strategic? That it is important to our success and connected to our goals. And all leaders without the organization incorporate it within their plans and hold people accountable. Are we integrated, where it's part of all our policies and practices? And our leadership have strong D&I knowledge integrated into all their activities. Is it disruptive, where it is innovative and courageous and challenging the status quo? And all our leaders challenge their own thinking and the thinking of others. Once we take an honest look about where we are, we have the opportunity to talk about where do we want to be realistically. Realistically, are we in a space to be in integration? Or are we in a space to be in disruption? It doesn't mean that we can't change it as we move forward, but we have to be honest about realistically, what are our next steps? Being clear about where we are and where we want to be provides clarity and direction within our organizations. Otherwise, we have some people working towards disruption while some people are great at being strategic. And that misalignment causes confusion and makes what's already a difficult work even that much harder. So we have to take some time to think about where we are in our organizations and then reflect on where we want to be. Simultaneously, while we're doing that work, we have to continue to be educated within ourselves. You can't have inclusion without I know it's an overused statement, but it has a lot of truth in it. It is the people that move forward this work. It is their people and their everyday decisions and everyday interactions that make the difference. And therefore, it's important that the people are equipped to do this work. What are some of the ways that people can be equipped? We can be dedicated to learning about the culture and history and realities of different people. We can continue to think about our own beliefs and ideas and how that impacts the way we view the world. And we can use that knowledge to move into action and say, we are committed to being inclusion champions in every space that we're in. If you are like me, then the idea of learning about all those different cultural groups and histories and realities, that's a lot. And so I've just resolved that it's going to be a lifelong process. I'm always going to be learning. And in order to do that, I know I have to remain curious, genuinely curious, to know that history, those stories, and the ramifications of it. I have to practice cultural humility, meaning that many times when we hear those stories and interact in different cultures, we try to find the similarities because it helps us make sense. It helps to demystify it. But when we're practicing inclusion, we suspend that, and we accept those realities as truths, and we absorb it as such. And we do all of that with empathy. Even more difficult than doing the work of learning about other cultural groups, as important as it is so we can have a greater understanding of the why behind this work, is doing the work to learn more about ourselves and our beliefs and ideas and the way that it impacts the way that we show up in this world. Usually when I say that, people will say, oh, you think I'm a bad person, or you think I have all these biases and prejudices. No, I absolutely do not. I think that we're all inherently good people who want to do good work. But do I think we all have biases? Absolutely. And we need to stop making that a bad thing. I like to say we can't stand in the rain and not get wet. And what I mean by that is that when we enter into the world, it was already turning with its own ideas and its own beliefs and its own portrayals, and we enter into it. So naturally, we absorb a lot of that information and take it as our own. And as such, we have these erroneous ideas about different cultural groups. That's what we need to realize and accept. But as people who's dedicated to being inclusive, as inclusive champions, then we need to take a moment when we have and kind of think of all our thoughts and actions lining up with what we want to achieve. We gotta be like, whoa, what was that? I remember when I was about 8 years old, myself and my cousins were riding in the car. And, it was a station wagon, I'm dating myself, but we were riding in the back seat of the car. And my cousins were teasing me. MeShawn's gonna marry a white man. MeShawn's gonna marry a white man. They teased me. I'm getting mad. I'm getting frustrated. My little cheeks are getting red. No, I'm not! I cried back to them. No, I'm not! What was that about? It might seem like innocent teasing between cousins, but it's those moments. The moments we've all been part of in jokes, in conversations, in portrayals, that we have to sit back and say, hey, how has that impacted the way I view and see the world? Now, of course, adult me would have said to 8-year-old me to tell my cousins, and he's gonna look like Brad Pitt. But I didn't have that language, nor did I know who Brad Pitt was. But we have to be able to think about how our interactions and backgrounds impact the way we show up. I have another quick story. I have a nephew, And at this point, he was probably in late middle school, early high school. And we were driving in the car, and I don't know what we were talking about, but he says, "Of course black people are criminals. Look who's in prison." What? I've done the studies. I've read, I'm unpacking things for myself. But to hear it out of the mouth of the baby, it's deep, it's socialized. We start to believe the messages that we have received. And we have to do a lot of unpacking towards that. And I hope we did a lot of unpacking that day. And we do all these things, and we say, once we are continuing to learn about other cultural groups and committed to learning about ourselves, then we're committed to being inclusive champions in every space that we're in. How many of us consider ourselves allies? Raise your hands. Hi. Absolutely. So as allies, if we're not questioning the status quo at least 20 times a day, we might have some opportunities to grow in our allyship. We have to ask the hard questions. We have to say, how is our work supporting the underserved and underrepresented? Because we know if we have that point of view, we're supporting everybody. But we need to do so with intentionality. So once we have set our expectations within our organizations and we're committed to learning about ourselves, then that work combined, intertwined to our organizations, no one will question our commitment, externally or internally. There's no silver bullet to this. There's not one program or two programs or three programs. We won't be done in 2 years or 3 years, or maybe not even 10. But we stay committed, daily, moment by moment. And if we do so, then we can make real change that has real implications for today and for generations to come.